I sat in Dale's grimy shop, hands trembling as he held up a broken piece of jewelry. A distinctive silver bracelet with turquoise stones. Amanda's bracelet. My daughter-in-law's bracelet. Dale had just shown me the cut brake lines, the tampered steering fluid, the loosened lug nuts on my truck. "Sir, someone wanted you hurt," he said quietly, his weathered face grave. The bracelet must have fallen when she was under the hood, working on my vehicle in the darkness of my own garage. My mind raced back 3 months to when Amanda married my son Trevor and moved into the family home I built 40 years ago. My name is Julius. I'm 67 years old, and until that Tuesday morning in Dale's auto repair, I thought I understood my life. I spent 34 years working for the Postal Service, walking the same routes through our neighborhood in suburban Cleveland, Ohio. I knew every family, every dog, every crack in every sidewalk. When I retired 8 years ago, my wife Carol was supposed to be there with me. We had plans. Travel. Grandchildren someday. A garden. But cancer took her 6 months after my retirement party. She went fast. Too fast. Pancreatic. By the time they found it, there was nothing anyone could do. Our son Trevor was 24 then. He took his mother's death hard. We both did. But we had each other, and that counted for something. Trevor had always been a good kid. Responsible. Smart. He became an accountant, got his CPA license, worked for a decent firm downtown. He visited every Sunday for dinner. We'd watch the Browns lose together, complain about the weather, talk about his work. Simple, comfortable, the way life between a father and son should be. Then, 6 months ago, Trevor brought Amanda to Sunday dinner. I remember opening the door and seeing her standing there next to my boy. She was beautiful. I'll give her that. 28 years old, dark hair that fell in waves past her shoulders, green eyes that seemed to take in everything. She wore a white sundress and that silver bracelet with turquoise stones. She smiled at me, warm and genuine, and held out her hand. "Mr. Patterson, I've heard so much about you. Trevor talks about you constantly. I'm Amanda." She worked as a dental hygienist at a practice in Lakewood. Over dinner, she asked me about my postal career, laughed at my stories, admired the photographs of Carol I kept on the mantel. She helped clear dishes without being asked. She complimented the pot roast I'd made from Carol's old recipe. When she left that evening, Trevor's face was glowing in a way I hadn't seen since before his mother died. "She's special, Dad," he told me at the door. "Really special." They moved fast. By the end of the first month, they were inseparable. Trevor brought her every Sunday. She started calling me Julius instead of Mr. Patterson. She'd show up during the week sometimes, bringing cookies she'd baked, asking if I needed help with anything around the house. I was charmed. Who wouldn't be? After years of quiet loneliness, having a young woman's energy in the house felt like life returning. 3 months after that first dinner, Trevor proposed. They were married at the courthouse 2 weeks later, just a simple ceremony with a few friends. Amanda wore a cream-colored dress and carried daisies. She cried during the vows. Trevor looked happier than I'd seen him since Carol's funeral. At the small reception at a local restaurant, Trevor pulled me aside. "Dad, I need to ask you something. Amanda and I are trying to save for a house, but rent is killing us. Her lease is up next month, and my apartment is too small for both of us. Would you consider letting us stay with you? Just temporarily. 6 months? Maybe a year? We'd pay rent, help with expenses." I looked across the room at Amanda, laughing with her friends, her hand resting on Trevor's arm. I thought about the empty bedrooms upstairs, the silence that filled the house most evenings. The way Carol would have loved having family around. "You don't need to pay rent," I told him. "You're my son. Both of you. Stay as long as you need." Trevor hugged me hard. "Thanks, Dad. This means everything." They moved in 2 weeks later. Amanda immediately set about making the house feel lived in again. She bought new curtains for the kitchen. She organized the pantry. She planted herbs in Carol's old garden boxes. The first month was wonderful. She cooked elaborate dinners, Italian food, Thai curries, things I'd never tried. She'd sit with me after dinner, asking about Carol, looking through old photo albums, listening to stories about Trevor as a boy. "You raised an amazing man," she told me one evening. "Trevor is everything I ever wanted. Kind, stable, responsible. That comes from you, Julius. But there were small moments that didn't quite fit. Little things I noticed but dismissed. One evening, Amanda asked me detailed questions about my finances. Did I have a will? Was the house in a trust? What about life insurance? I told her I had a will. Everything went to Trevor eventually. Standard stuff. She nodded, smiled, changed the subject, but her eyes had sharpened for just a moment. Another time, I overheard her on the phone in the backyard. Her voice was cold, nothing like her usual warm tone. It's taking too long, she said. I can't wait forever. We need to move faster. When I came outside, she hung up quickly, smiled brightly. Just talking to my mother, she said. She's so demanding sometimes. Trevor started working longer hours. He'd come home at 8, 9 at night, exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes. He stopped joining me for our evening walks. When I asked if everything was okay, he'd nod distractedly. Just busy season at work, Dad. It'll pass. By the second month, Amanda's behavior changed. The elaborate dinners stopped. She became short-tempered, snapping at Trevor over small things. She spent hours on her phone, typing rapidly, her face tense. When I'd enter a room, she'd turn the screen away. She stopped asking about Carol, stopped helping in the garden. One evening, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs for water and saw light coming from the garage. Through the window, I watched Amanda standing next to my truck, the hood open, peering inside with a flashlight. When she heard me at the door, she jumped, closed the hood quickly. Sorry, Julius. I thought I heard a strange noise earlier when we drove in. Just checking. Probably nothing. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. The week before my truck broke down, things got stranger. Trevor started working even later. Sometimes he wouldn't come home until after midnight. When I asked where he'd been, Amanda would answer for him. He's at the office, Julius. Big client. You know how it is. But Trevor wouldn't meet my eyes. Then, 2 days before I took my truck to Dale's shop, I had an appointment with my lawyer, Harold Mason. Just routine stuff, updating some beneficiary information. Amanda insisted on driving me. She waited in the parking lot, kept checking her watch. When I came out, she asked how long the appointment took, what we discussed. I told her casually that I'd updated my will, left everything to Trevor. Her face changed. Just for a second. Something dark flickered across her features. Then she smiled. That's generous, Julius. Trevor is lucky to have you, but her hands were tight on the steering wheel all the way home. 2 days later, my truck started making terrible grinding noises. The steering felt loose. The brakes were soft. I drove it carefully to Dale's shop, the same place I'd been going for 20 years. Dale was a good man. Honest, thorough. He'd served in Vietnam, had steady hands, and a careful eye. He kept my truck for 3 hours. When he called me back to the garage, his face was serious. Julius, come here. I need to show you something. He took me under the truck, pointed with his flashlight. The brake lines had been cut, not all the way through, but deep enough that they would have failed eventually. The steering fluid reservoir had been opened, fluid drained to dangerous levels. 3 of the 5 lug nuts on the driver's side front wheel had been loosened. This isn't wear and tear, Dale said. This is sabotage. Someone did this deliberately. If you'd driven this truck on the highway, hit the brakes hard, you'd have gone right off the road. At your age, at highway speed, you probably wouldn't have survived the crash. My mouth went dry. Are you sure? I've been doing this 43 years, Julius. I'm sure. Someone wanted you hurt, maybe wanted you dead. That's when he held up the bracelet. Silver with turquoise stones. Amanda's bracelet. Found this caught in the engine compartment, near where someone would have stood to access the brake lines. Looks like women's jewelry. You know who it belongs to? I took the bracelet in my shaking hand. I knew exactly who it belonged to. I'd seen it on Amanda's wrist every single day since Trevor first brought her to my house. My daughter-in-law, I whispered. Dale's face went grim. Julius, you need to call the police. Right now. This is attempted murder. I stood in Dale's small office, the bracelet burning in my palm like evidence of a betrayal I didn't want to believe. Dale was on his feet, reaching for his phone. I'm calling the police, Julius. This is serious. This woman tried to kill you. Wait. My voice came out hoarse. Just wait. Give me 24 hours. Please, Dale. He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. 24 hours? Julius, she tried to murder you. What's there to think about? My son loves her. The words felt hollow even as I said them. Trevor married her 3 months ago. This will destroy him. I need to understand what's happening before I blow up his whole life. Maybe there's an explanation. Dale set his phone down slowly. What explanation could there possibly be for cutting brake lines? I don't know. But I need to find out. One day, Dale. Keep this quiet for one day. If I don't have answers by tomorrow evening, I'll go to the police myself. I promise. Dale shook his head but nodded. One day. But Julius, be careful. If she did this once, she might try again. Don't eat anything she prepares. Don't drink anything she gives you. Lock your bedroom door at night. I drove home in Dale's loaner car, my mind spinning. The house was empty when I arrived. A note on the kitchen counter in Amanda's handwriting. Took Trevor to visit my mother for dinner. Back late. There's leftover casserole in the fridge. I didn't touch the casserole. Instead, I went upstairs to the guest bedroom, the room that had become Trevor and Amanda's room. My hands were shaking as I opened the door. I'd never invaded my son's privacy like this, but nothing about this situation was normal. I started with Amanda's dresser. Clothes, scarves, makeup. Nothing unusual. Then I checked the drawers more carefully, running my hands along the bottoms and backs. In the lowest drawer, tucked behind a stack of sweaters, I found a phone. Not Amanda's regular phone, a cheap burner phone, the kind you buy at convenience stores. I turned it on. No password. The text message history made my blood run cold. Messages to a number, saved only as M. The old man is tougher than expected. Still kicking around. This is taking longer than planned. Response from M. Be patient. Can't rush these things. Suspicion is worse than delay. Amanda. I'm tired of waiting. Living in this depressing house with him, pretending to care about his dead wife's stories, makes me sick. M. Stay focused on the prize. 300,000, minimum. House, insurance, retirement accounts. Worth the wait. Amanda. Maybe we need to speed things up. An accident. Something clean. M. We've discussed this. Natural looking. No questions. Stick to the plan. The messages went back weeks. I felt bile rising in my throat. I kept searching. In a shoebox at the back of the closet, I found printed documents, articles about estate law in Ohio, information about inheritance rights for surviving family members, details about how life insurance pays out in cases of accidental death, a hand-drawn diagram of my house's layout with notes, stairs carpeted, could stage fall, garage has old heater, carbon monoxide possibility, kitchen has gas stove. These were murder plans, detailed, calculated murder plans. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the papers. I kept searching. In Amanda's purse, hanging on the back of the bedroom door, I found another phone. This one had a dating app still logged in. I scrolled through her message history from before she met Trevor. Dozens of conversations with different men. But the pattern was clear. She'd ask questions. Do you have family nearby? Are you close with your parents? What do they do for work? Do they own their home? She was screening them, looking for targets. I found Trevor's laptop on the desk. It was still on, password saved. I felt sick invading his privacy, but I had to know how deep this went. His browsing history showed searches for estate law, life insurance policies, how to access a parent's financial accounts. My financial accounts. I'd checked our joint bank account, the one I'd kept Trevor on since he was a teenager for emergencies. Large withdrawals over the past 2 months. 2,000 here, 1,500 there, 800. The money was being drained steadily. In Trevor's jacket pocket, hanging in the closet, I found a pawn shop receipt. Carol's pearl necklace, the one she wore on our wedding day, her gold watch, her mother's ring, all pawned 2 weeks ago for $800. My son was selling his mother's jewelry. I sat on the bed, surrounded by evidence of betrayal, and tried to understand. Was Trevor part of this? Had Amanda manipulated him? Or was my boy actively helping her plan my murder? I called one of Amanda's ex-fiancés. I'd found his name in her old Facebook messages, back before she scrubbed her social media. Gerald Hartman, from Pittsburgh. It took some searching, but I found his number. Mr. Hartman, my name is Julius Patterson. I'm calling about Amanda Reeves. I believe you were engaged to her 2 years ago. There was a long silence. Then, is she trying to marry you? She married my son. Get him away from her. Gerald's voice was urgent, almost panicked. Get him away now. She's dangerous. Tell me what happened. Gerald's story spilled out. He'd met Amanda on a dating app. She'd seemed perfect, caring, attentive, interested in everything about him. She'd asked about his family, learned his mother was wealthy, owned property in Pennsylvania. Amanda had moved in with him after 3 months. She'd slowly isolated him from his family, convinced him they were judgmental and controlling. She'd pushed him to ask his mother for early access to his inheritance, claiming they needed money for a business opportunity. When his mother refused, Amanda's behavior changed. She became cold, calculating. She started talking about accidents, about how elderly people fall downstairs all the time. Gerald's mother had a bad hip. It would be so easy, Amanda said. So believable. Gerald had been horrified. He'd confronted Amanda, threatened to go to the police. She'd disappeared overnight, cleaned out his apartment, taken his credit cards, vanished. He'd reported it, but there was no proof of anything except theft. The police found nothing. She worked with someone, Gerald told me. I never met him, but I heard her on the phone sometimes. She called him Marcus. I think he was her boyfriend, maybe her husband. They were running some kind of scheme together. She'd get close to men with money or family money, and they'd figure out a way to steal it. Sometimes through manipulation, sometimes through threats. I got lucky. I confronted her before things went further. Your son might not be so lucky. After I hung up with Gerald, I felt numb. I checked Trevor's phone, which he'd left charging in the kitchen. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through his texts. Most recent message from Amanda, sent an hour ago. Your dad's being stubborn. Maybe we don't wait for natural causes. Make sure you're at my mom's this weekend like we planned. You need an alibi. Trevor's response. I don't know if I can go through with this. Amanda, remember what we talked about. Your freedom or your father. Choose. Trevor, he's my dad. Amanda, I can't. Amanda, you already helped me research his accounts. You kept him distracted while I worked on the car. You're an accomplice. If you back out now, I'll tell the police it was all your idea. Who do you think they'll believe? The grieving widow or the son who stands to inherit everything? Trevor, please don't make me do this. Amanda, then don't make me protect myself. Your choice, Trevor. Think carefully. I set the phone down and walked to the bathroom. I threw up. My son, my boy, the child Carol and I raised with love and patience. He'd helped her. Maybe not willingly, maybe not understanding the full scope, but he'd helped her try to kill me. I sat on the bathroom floor for a long time, trying to process what I'd discovered. Trevor wasn't a willing participant. I could see that in his texts. He was trapped, scared, manipulated. Amanda had groomed him just as carefully as she'd groomed me. But he'd still helped her. He'd researched my accounts. He'd sold his mother's jewelry. He'd kept me distracted while Amanda sabotaged my truck. My son had become an accomplice to attempted murder. I cleaned myself up, splashed cold water on my face, and made a decision. I needed help from someone I could trust completely. I called Harold Mason, my lawyer. Harold had handled Carol's estate. He'd known our family for 30 years. When I explained everything, every piece of evidence, every text message, he was silent for a long moment. Julius, this is beyond estate law. This is criminal conspiracy. You need to go to the police immediately. I need to know how deep Trevor's involvement goes first. Harold, he's my son. If there's any way to protect him, to show he was coerced, I have to try. You're talking about obstruction of justice. I'm talking about 24 hours to gather more evidence. Evidence that shows Amanda is the architect and Trevor is a victim. Then I'll go to the police with everything. But I need your help. Harold sighed deeply. What do you need? Can you arrange for hidden cameras in my house? Audio recording devices? I need to document Amanda's plans in her own words. I need proof that she's threatening Trevor. That's legally complicated, Julius. Recording someone in their own home. It's my home, Harold, and I'm trying to prevent my own murder. Help me. 3 hours later, a technician Harold knew installed tiny cameras in the living room, kitchen, and hallway. Audio recording devices in strategic locations. Everything linked to an app on my phone. The technician showed me how to access the feeds remotely. If anything happens to you, Harold said as the technician left, these recordings automatically upload to a secure cloud server I control. Amanda won't be able to erase evidence. Thank you, Harold. I'm also doing something else. He pulled out legal documents. I'm changing your will right now. Everything goes into a charitable trust. Trevor gets a small monthly allowance, but only if your death is ruled natural causes. If there's any suspicion of foul play, any investigation, everything goes to the American Cancer Society in Carol's name. Trevor gets nothing. Harold, that's harsh. It removes Amanda's motive. If you die under suspicious circumstances, neither of them benefits. It protects Trevor too, Julius. If she realizes she can't profit from your death, maybe she'll move on to another target. It made sense, as cold as it was. We signed the documents. Harold filed them electronically within the hour. The old will was invalidated. My new will was ironclad. One more thing, Harold said. Be very careful tonight. Lock your door. Don't eat or drink anything in that house. And call me every 2 hours, so I know you're alive. Amanda and Trevor returned home around 10 that evening. I was sitting in the living room, reading, trying to appear normal. My bedroom door had a new lock installed, one they wouldn't notice unless they tried to get in. Trevor looked terrible, pale, exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. He barely glanced at me before heading upstairs. Amanda was cheerful, almost aggressively so. How was your day, Julius? Car running okay? Dale said it was fine, just routine maintenance. All fixed now. Her smile faltered slightly. Oh, good. That's good. How was your mother? Fine. She asked about you. Wants to meet you sometime. She was lying smoothly, easily. I wondered if she even had a mother. Everything about Amanda might be fabricated. I'm heading to bed, I said. Long day. Sleep well. You too, Julius. I went upstairs, locked my bedroom door, and opened the camera app on my phone. The feeds showed every angle of the downstairs and the hallway outside Trevor and Amanda's room. I put in earbuds to listen to the audio. Around midnight, I heard raised voices. I pulled up the camera showing their bedroom door. It was closed, but the audio was clear. The brake lines should have failed by now. Amanda's voice was sharp with frustration. Maybe I didn't cut deep enough. Or maybe that mechanic fixed them before anything happened. I can't do this anymore. Trevor sounded like he was crying. He's my father, Amanda. He raised me. He loved Mom. He's been nothing but kind to us. Your father is the only thing standing between us and $300,000. Amanda's voice was cold, calculating. The house alone is worth that. The life insurance is another 50. His retirement accounts, his savings. We take all of it, Trevor. We get our lives started properly. By murdering him? This is insane. It's not murder, if it looks like an accident. Old men fall downstairs. They have heart attacks. Carbon monoxide leaks happen in old houses. The police won't even investigate if we're smart about it. I never agreed to this. You said you just wanted to convince him to give us money early. You said we'd just ask nicely. And when has asking nicely ever gotten anyone what they want? Your father is sitting on a small fortune while we scrape by. It's not fair, Trevor. We deserve that money. You're his only child. It's yours anyway, eventually. We're just moving up the timeline. This is wrong. Everything about this is wrong. You're already in too deep. Amanda's voice turned vicious. You helped me research his accounts. You sold your mother's jewelry to pay off your debts. You kept your father busy while I worked on his truck. You're an accomplice, Trevor. If I go down for this, you go down with me. And who do you think the police will believe? The young widow who just wanted to help her struggling husband? Or the son who stands to inherit everything and has a history of financial problems? There was a long silence. Then the sound of sobbing. You said you loved me, Trevor whispered. I do love you. But love doesn't pay bills. Now stop being weak and help me figure this out. We need a new plan. Something foolproof. What if I go to the police? What if I tell them everything? Then I'll tell them it was your idea. I'll show them the searches on your computer, the pawn receipts, the text messages where you talked about inheriting the house. I'll paint you as a desperate man who manipulated me into helping him kill his father. I'm very convincing, Trevor. Remember that. More sobbing. Then Amanda's voice, softer now, almost tender. Baby, I know this is hard. But think about our future. Think about the life we could have. No more struggling. No more living in your father's house, following his rules. We could travel, buy our own place, start a family. All of that is waiting for us. We just have to be brave enough to take it, by killing him, by freeing ourselves. That's all it is. Freedom. The conversation ended. I heard a door close, footsteps in the hallway, then silence. I sat on my bed, headphones in, listening to my son cry himself to sleep while his wife plotted my murder. The cameras had recorded everything. The audio was crystal clear. It was evidence. Solid, damning evidence. But it was also my son's voice, helping plan my death. Even coerced, even manipulated, it was still Trevor's voice. I called Harold at 1 a.m. I have the recording. She admitted everything. She threatened Trevor. She's planning another attempt. Go to the police now, Julius. Tonight. This is enough. Tomorrow. I need to talk to Trevor first. Alone. I need to understand how this happened. You're taking a huge risk. He's my son, Harold. I have to try. The next morning, I woke to the sound of a doorbell. My bedroom door was still locked. I looked at the camera feeds. 2 police officers were at my front door. Amanda was talking to them, crying, pointing upstairs. I got dressed quickly and went downstairs. The officers turned to me with serious expressions. Mr. Patterson, we've received a report that you've been abusing your daughter-in-law, making threats, creating an unsafe environment. We need to ask you some questions. Amanda stood behind them, her face tear-stained, her shoulders shaking. She'd called the police on me. She was creating a paper trail, building a narrative. If I died now, there would be documented conflict between us. It would explain away any suspicion. She was brilliant. Absolutely, terrifyingly brilliant. I stayed calm as the officers questioned me. I showed them around the house, pointed out that there were no signs of distress, no evidence of abuse, no damage to property. I spoke respectfully, kept my voice level. Officers, my daughter-in-law is new to the family. There's been some adjustment stress. Maybe I've been too set in my ways. But I've never threatened her or made her feel unsafe. This is her home too. Amanda sniffled behind them, playing the victim perfectly. One officer seemed skeptical, but they took notes, filed the report, and left with a warning to me about keeping the peace in my own home. As soon as their car pulled away, Amanda dropped the tears. She looked at me with cold calculation. Just protecting myself, Julius. In case anything happens. Now there's a record that we've had problems. Smart, I said quietly. Very smart. She smiled. I'm glad you understand. I went upstairs and called Harold immediately. She's escalating. She just called the police and claimed I'm abusing her. She's building a case. Then we need to move faster. I'm calling a friend. Detective Susan Morales. She specializes in domestic crimes, elder abuse, financial exploitation. She's good, Julius. Trustworthy. We need to bring her in now. 2 hours later, I sat in a small office at the police station with Detective Morales. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with graying hair pulled back in a tight bun. Harold sat beside me. I laid everything out. The bracelet Dale found, the cut brake lines, the burner phone, the text messages, the documents in Amanda's closet, the conversation I'd recorded last night. Everything. Detective Morales listened without interrupting. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. This is extensive. This is good evidence. But I need more. I need to catch her in the act of planning or attempting another crime. Otherwise, a defense attorney will tear apart some of this. The recording might not be admissible depending on how it's presented. And the circumstantial evidence, while compelling, isn't enough for a murder conspiracy charge that will stick. What do you suggest? Harold asked. A controlled operation. Mr. Patterson, do you have anywhere you go regularly? Somewhere isolated that Amanda would know about? I have a cabin, I said. About an hour north, on a small lake. I've mentioned it to Amanda several times. Told her I go there sometimes to fish, to get away. Perfect. Here's what we'll do. You'll announce you're taking a weekend trip to the cabin. Make it seem like you need space after the police visit. Amanda will see it as an opportunity. Isolated location, no witnesses. If she's planning another attempt, she'll move on it. You want to use me as bait. I want to catch her red-handed. We'll have surveillance on your house. We'll have officers at the cabin. You won't be there, Mr. Patterson. You'll be safely in a hotel. But if Amanda makes a move, if she sends someone to that cabin or discusses specific plans, we'll have her. What about Trevor? I asked. My son is involved, but he's being coerced. She's threatening him. Detective Morales' face softened. I understand. If Trevor cooperates fully, if he testifies about the coercion and threats, we can work out immunity. But he has to help us, Mr. Patterson. He has to be willing to tell the truth. Let me talk to him first. Alone, please. She hesitated, then nodded. You have until tonight. After that, we move forward with or without his cooperation. But Julius, be careful. Don't let him warn Amanda. If she knows we're onto her, she'll disappear, and we'll lose our chance. That afternoon I found Trevor alone in the house. Amanda had gone to the grocery store. I asked him to take a walk with me, said I needed to talk. He looked terrified but agreed. We drove to a small diner across town, sat in a corner booth. The lunch rush was over. We had privacy. Son, I know everything. Trevor's face went white. Dad, let me finish. I know about the plan. I know about the brake lines. I know Amanda is threatening you. I've heard the recordings. I've seen the texts. And I know you didn't want any of this. Tears started rolling down Trevor's face. I'm so sorry. Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it would go this far. I never meant. Tell me how it started. The story poured out between sobs. Trevor had met Amanda on a dating app 8 months ago. She'd seemed perfect, beautiful, funny, interested in everything about him. She'd asked about his family, seemed genuinely moved when he talked about losing his mother. She made me feel understood, Trevor said, like she really got how hard it's been. Amanda had been patient at first. She'd slowly introduced ideas, that I was old-fashioned, that I didn't appreciate Trevor's independence, that I was holding on to money that should rightfully be Trevor's. She'd shown him articles about how adult children deserve financial support from their parents. She made it seem reasonable, Trevor whispered. Like you were being selfish by not helping us buy a house. Like you had all this money just sitting there while we struggled. Amanda had convinced Trevor to check my financial accounts, just to see what was available. She'd researched estate law, shown Trevor projections of his inheritance. She'd painted a picture of the life they could have, if only I would help them more. When I'd refused to give them a down payment for a house, Amanda had shifted tactics. She'd started talking about accidents, about how elderly people died all the time from falls, from carbon monoxide, from heart attacks. She'd made it sound inevitable, natural. She said we could speed up the timeline, that you'd want us to be happy, that it wasn't really wrong because the money would be mine anyway. Trevor had sold Carol's jewelry to pay off credit card debt Amanda had racked up. He'd searched my computer files, given Amanda access to my accounts. But he swore he'd never agreed to murder. I thought she was just talking, Dad. Just fantasizing. Then I found out she'd done something to your truck. She told me after. Said she'd just loosened a few things to scare you into being more generous. When you didn't crash, when Dale fixed it, I thought it was over. But it's not over, I said quietly. She's planning another attempt. And she's threatening to frame you if you don't help. Trevor nodded, crying so hard he could barely breathe. I can't do it, Dad. I can't hurt you. But I'm scared. She has evidence. She's documented everything. She'll destroy me if I cross her. Trevor, look at me. I reached across the table, gripped his hands. There's a way out. Detective Susan Morales is building a case. If you cooperate fully, If you testify about everything Amanda has done, they'll give you immunity. You were coerced, son. You were manipulated by someone who knew exactly what she was doing. She'll kill me if I testify against her. She's not going to get the chance. The police are setting up a sting operation. We're going to catch her. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Trevor looked at me with desperate, broken eyes. The same eyes that had looked at me when he was 7 and fell off his bike. When he was 13 and got cut from the basketball team. When he was 24 and stood at his mother's grave. I trust you, Dad. I'm so sorry. For everything. I know, son. I know. We spent the next hour going over the plan with Detective Morales. Trevor agreed to cooperate fully. He'd wear a wire, document any conversations with Amanda about future plans. He'd provide his computer, his phone records, everything. For show, Morales arranged for Trevor to be taken in for questioning about the false abuse report. It would look legitimate, would make Amanda think Trevor had been caught up in the investigation. It would make her panic. That evening, I returned home to find Amanda pacing in the living room. What happened? Where have you been? The police took Trevor for questioning. I know. They called me. Said they wanted to talk to him about the report you filed. Make sure there's no family violence situation. Her face was calculating. Did they say when they'd release him? Few hours, probably. They're just being thorough. I pretended to be upset, said I needed to get away for the weekend. Clear my head. I'd drive up to the cabin, spend a couple days fishing, let things cool down. Amanda's eyes lit up for just a second, before she schooled her expression to concern. Are you sure that's safe, Julius? The cabin is so isolated. What if something happens? I'll be fine. I've been going there for 30 years. I need the peace and quiet. When are you leaving? Tomorrow morning. I'll be back Sunday evening. That night, the cameras caught Amanda making frantic phone calls. She was careful, used the burner phone, but we had surveillance on the house now. We could track everything. He's going to the cabin, she said to someone. This weekend. It's perfect. Isolated. No one around. The male voice on the other end was gruff. You sure about the timing? It has to be now. The police are sniffing around. If we wait any longer, we'll lose our window. Just make it look like an accident. Fall, carbon monoxide from the old heater, whatever. But make it clean. It'll cost extra. Rush job. Higher risk. I don't care. Just do it. I'll wire half up front, half when it's done. Give me the address. Amanda rattled off the cabin's location, described the layout, explained that I'd be alone. Make sure you're careful. He's old, but he's not stupid. Don't underestimate him. Never do. I'll handle it Saturday night. Old men die in their sleep up in places like that all the time. No one questions it. Amanda ended the call and sat on the couch, her face cold and satisfied. Then Trevor came home, released from questioning. She immediately softened, rushed to him. Baby, are you okay? What did they ask? Trevor played his part perfectly. Said the police had asked about the abuse report, about our family dynamics. He'd told them everything was fine, just normal family stress. They'd let him go with a warning to keep the peace. Amanda hugged him tight. It's almost over, Trevor. Your father is going to the cabin this weekend. Marcus is going to handle everything. By Monday, we'll be free. Trevor's voice was hollow. Marcus? My business partner. I told you about him. He handles the complicated situations. Your business partner. Trevor's voice broke slightly. You mean your partner in murder? Amanda pulled back, studied his face. Are you having second thoughts? No, Trevor lied. I'm just scared. Don't be. Marcus is a professional. It'll look completely natural, and then everything changes for us. You'll see. The wire Trevor wore caught every word. The recording was crystal clear. Amanda had just confessed to planning my murder and had named her accomplice. Detective Morales called me that night at the hotel where I was staying. We have enough. Tomorrow, when this Marcus person arrives at your house, we'll take them both down. Officers are positioned around your property. The cabin has a team waiting in case he goes there first. You're safe, Julius. This is almost over. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Amanda had one more surprise waiting. She'd been so thorough, so careful. Would she really fall for a sting operation so simply? I was about to find out. Friday morning, I made a show of packing my truck, loading fishing gear, a cooler, an overnight bag. Amanda watched from the window, smiling. She even came out to the driveway to say goodbye. Drive safe, Julius. Enjoy the peace and quiet. Take all the time you need. Thanks, Amanda. I'll see you Sunday. I drove away, watching her in the rearview mirror. She stood in the driveway until I turned the corner, then immediately pulled out her phone. I didn't go to the cabin. I drove to a hotel 20 miles away, checked in under a false name Harold had arranged, and set up the camera feeds on my laptop. Detective Morales was in constant contact. Surveillance teams were in position around my house and at the cabin. Trevor was at a safe location with 2 officers. Friday afternoon, I watched through the cameras as Amanda paced the house, checking her phone constantly. She made several calls on the burner phone. The police were monitoring those calls, recording everything. "Where are you?" she said to someone. "He left hours ago. You should be in position by now." "Relax," a male voice responded. "I'm on my way. I'll scout the cabin tonight, make my move tomorrow evening. Less chance of witnesses in the dark. Just do it right. No mistakes." I've never made a mistake yet. Saturday morning, a truck pulled up to my house. A man in his 40s got out, tall, muscular, wearing jeans and a work jacket. He had cold eyes and a military bearing. This had to be Marcus. Amanda came out of the house immediately, looked around nervously, then let him inside. The cameras showed them embracing, kissing. This wasn't just a business partnership. They were intimate, romantic even. Detective Morales called me. "That's our guy. Marcus Hendricks. He has priors. Assault, extortion, suspected involvement in 2 suspicious deaths but never enough evidence to charge him. He's dangerous, Julius. Good thing you're not actually at that cabin." I watched through the cameras as Amanda and Marcus sat at my kitchen table, spreading out papers. I couldn't hear everything, but I saw them pointing at documents, at what looked like a map. Then Amanda pulled up something on her phone, showed Marcus. He nodded, studied it carefully. They were planning, finalizing details. Detective Morales' voice came through my phone. "We're going to move in soon. We want to hear more of their conversation, get more evidence, but we won't let Marcus leave for the cabin. We'll intercept him before he can get on the road." But I had a bad feeling. Something wasn't right. Amanda was too confident, too relaxed. She wasn't acting like someone about to commit murder. She was acting like someone who'd already won. "Detective, wait, something's wrong. This feels too easy." "Julius, we have them. They're discussing the plan right in your house. We have recordings, surveillance, multiple officers as witnesses. This is solid. Just be careful, please." An hour later, Marcus loaded equipment into his truck. I could see tools, gas canisters, heavy gloves, the kind of things you'd use for breaking and entering, for staging an accident. Amanda hugged him goodbye in the driveway. They kissed again, long and intimate. Then Marcus got into his truck and started driving. Detective Morales radioed her team. "All units, suspect is mobile. Prepare to intercept at Checkpoint Alpha. I want this clean, and by the book. Wait for my signal." Marcus drove north, toward the highway that led to the cabin. Police vehicles were positioned along his route, ready to pull him over. Unmarked cars followed at a distance. But then Marcus did something unexpected. He pulled into a gas station, got out, walked inside. Surveillance officers watched carefully. He bought coffee, used the restroom, seemed completely calm. Then he got back in his truck and kept driving. "He's not spooked," Morales said. "He thinks he's clear. We'll take him at the next checkpoint." But Marcus didn't head to the cabin. He turned east, took a different highway, drove for another 20 minutes. Then he pulled into a small airport, one used for private planes and charters. "He's running," Morales said. "All units converge. Don't let him board a plane." Police cars surrounded the airport within minutes. Officers moved in fast, weapons drawn. They arrested Marcus as he was walking toward a small charter plane, duffel bag over his shoulder. He didn't resist, just smiled coldly. "I want a lawyer." Back at my house, police burst through the door to arrest Amanda. But the house was empty. She was gone. Detective Morales called me, voice tight. We have Marcus. But Amanda ran. She must have known we were onto her. She played us, Julius. The whole thing with Marcus was a diversion. She sent him to draw our attention while she disappeared. Where would she go? We're searching now. We've issued an alert, put her photo out to every law enforcement agency. But she's smart. She probably had an escape plan ready. I felt sick. Amanda had outmaneuvered us. Even with all our evidence, all our planning, she'd stayed one step ahead. But then Harold called. Julius, Amanda tried to access your bank accounts an hour ago. Online transfer. She attempted to wire everything to an offshore account. But remember when I changed your will? I also had your bank add additional security protocols. Any large transfer requires verbal confirmation with a code word. The bank flagged it, called me immediately. Where did the request come from? They're tracking it now. But Julius, she also tried to access Trevor's accounts. She cleaned them out, took everything. He's got about $40 left. Trevor had been her backup plan all along. If the murder plot failed, she'd drain him financially and disappear. There's more, Harold said. I had a private investigator looking into Amanda's background. Her real name is Amanda Sheridan. She's wanted in 4 states for fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit murder. She's been running this scheme for 7 years. She marries, manipulates, steals, and disappears. When that doesn't work, people end up dead. How many people has she killed? They can prove 3. Suspect her in 2 more. Julius, you and Trevor are lucky to be alive. Police tracked Amanda to the airport, but she'd already boarded a commercial flight to Mexico using a fake passport. By the time they tried to pull the plane back, she'd vanished into Mexico City's crowded streets. But Marcus, sitting in an interrogation room with his lawyer, made a decision. He asked for a deal. Detective Morales called me with the news. Marcus is talking. He's giving us everything. Names, dates, locations, bank accounts. He's been Amanda's partner for 7 years. They've run this con in 5 states. They've killed 3 people and stolen over $1.2 million. Why is he talking? Because Amanda left him. She knew we were closing in, so she sacrificed him. Left him to take the fall while she escaped. He's angry, Julius. Hell hath no fury like a criminal betrayed. Marcus told them everything. How he'd met Amanda, a fellow con artist, and they'd formed a partnership. She'd handle the social engineering, the romance, the manipulation. He'd handle the physical aspects, the intimidation, the violence when necessary. They'd target men with family money, usually men with elderly parents or inheritance coming. Amanda would seduce them, marry them fast, isolate them from family. She'd research the financial situation carefully. Then, if manipulation didn't work to get early access to money, they'd move to murder, stage an accident, collect the insurance, vanish before suspicion could build. 3 times, they'd successfully killed. An elderly man in Pennsylvania had fallen downstairs. A widow in Michigan had died from carbon monoxide poisoning. A retired teacher in Indiana had drowned in his bathtub. All ruled accidental. All resulted in substantial insurance payouts to grieving relatives. Relatives Amanda had convinced to share the windfall with her before she disappeared. Trevor was supposed to be victim number 4, Marcus said coldly. After Julius died, Amanda was going to drain Trevor's accounts, convince him to take out a massive life insurance policy on himself, then stage his suicide. Make it look like he couldn't live with the guilt of his father's death. She'd collect everything and disappear. She told me all of this. She laughed about it. I felt rage building, white hot and consuming. This woman had nearly destroyed my entire family, had nearly killed me, had planned to kill Trevor, all for money. Where is she? I asked Detective Morales. We're working with Mexican authorities. But Julius, she's done this before. She has fake documents, safe houses, money stashed in multiple countries. It might take time to find her, but it didn't take as long as they thought. 2 weeks later, Amanda was arrested in Guadalajara trying to board a flight to Argentina. A hotel clerk had recognized her from the international alert called local police. Mexican authorities held her while extradition papers were processed. She fought it, hired expensive lawyers, claimed political persecution, But Marcus's testimony was damning. The evidence was overwhelming. 3 months later, she was extradited back to Ohio to face charges. The trial was scheduled for 6 months out. In the meantime, Trevor and I tried to rebuild our lives. The weeks after Amanda's arrest were strange and painful. Trevor moved back into his old room, the room he'd grown up in. He'd lost weight, looked years older than his 32 years. He'd been granted full immunity for his testimony, but the guilt was eating him alive. "I almost helped her kill you," he said one night. We were sitting in the living room, the television on but neither of us watching it. "I looked at those accounts, Dad. I sold Mom's jewelry. I kept you distracted while she sabotaged your truck. How do I live with that?" "You live with it by understanding how manipulation works," I said quietly. "Amanda was a professional, Trevor. This is what she does. She's a predator. She targeted you specifically because you were vulnerable, because you were lonely after losing your mother. She studied you, learned your weaknesses, exploited them systematically. You're not the first person she's done this to. You won't be the last. But I should have seen through it. Why? Because you're smart? Because you're educated? Son, intelligence doesn't protect you from emotional manipulation. Some of the smartest people in the world fall for cons because cons work on emotion, not logic. Amanda made you feel loved, understood, special. Then she slowly twisted that into obligation, guilt, fear. It's textbook psychological abuse. Trevor started seeing a therapist who specialized in trauma and manipulation. Dr. Sarah Chen worked with victims of emotional abuse, cult survivors, people who'd been psychologically controlled. She helped Trevor understand that he'd been groomed, that the techniques Amanda used were calculated and practiced. "She love-bombed you at first," Dr. Chen explained to both of us in a joint session Trevor had asked me to attend. "Excessive affection, attention, moving the relationship very fast. That creates an intense emotional bond. Then she began isolating you, making you doubt your perceptions, introducing ideas that you'd never have accepted under normal circumstances. By the time she asked you to do things that felt wrong, you were already psychologically dependent on her approval. You'd already crossed small ethical lines, so the bigger lines seemed less significant. It's progressive manipulation. Understanding didn't erase Trevor's guilt, but it helped him contextualize it. He worked hard in therapy. He was honest about his mistakes. He was determined to rebuild himself into someone worthy of the second chance he'd been given. I started a small handyman business. Nothing major, just helping elderly neighbors with repairs, painting, yard work. Trevor joined me. We'd work together during the day, two men with hammers and paintbrushes, rebuilding trust through shared labor. It was good for both of us. The physical work was meditative. We'd talk while we worked, not about Amanda or the trial, but about everything else. Sports, politics, memories of Carol. Trevor told me about his dreams, his fears, his hopes for the future. I listened, really listened. "I want to do something meaningful with my life," he said one afternoon. We were painting a widow's fence, the sun warm on our backs. "I wasted 2 years with Amanda. I don't want to waste any more time. What does meaningful look like to you?" "I don't know yet, but something that helps people, something that matters." He started volunteering at a domestic violence shelter, helping victims of abuse understand their financial options, file for protection orders, rebuild their credit. He was good at it. Gentle, patient, understanding in a way only someone who'd survived manipulation could be. I watched my son transform. The guilt didn't disappear, but he channeled it into purpose. He was becoming someone stronger, someone wiser, someone genuinely good. Meanwhile, the legal machinery ground forward. Marcus had pleaded guilty to multiple charges in exchange for his testimony against Amanda. He was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. He'd be in his 60s before he saw freedom again. Amanda pleaded not guilty to everything, claimed she'd been manipulated by Marcus, that she was a victim too. Her lawyers painted her as a naive woman who'd been controlled by a violent man. But the evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the texts, the testimony from Trevor, from Marcus, from Amanda's previous victims' families. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I attended every day, sitting in the gallery with Trevor beside me. We watched as prosecutors laid out Amanda's pattern of behavior across 7 years, 5 states, 3 murders. We heard Marcus testify about her cold calculation, her enjoyment of the manipulation. She used to laugh about it, Marcus said from the witness stand. She'd tell me how easy it was to make men fall in love with her, how simple it was to make them doubt themselves. She called it playing the game. She kept score. The most powerful testimony came from the families of her previous victims. A son who'd lost his father to a suspicious fall. A daughter whose mother had died from carbon monoxide poisoning in her own home. They described how Amanda had appeared in their loved ones' lives, how she'd charmed them, how she'd isolated them from family, how their loved ones had changed under her influence. Then Trevor took the stand. I'd been worried about this moment. Trevor had been practicing with the prosecutors, but testifying against someone you'd loved, even someone who'd betrayed you, was brutal. He walked to the witness stand with his head high. He looked directly at Amanda as he was sworn in. She stared back, her face blank. Trevor spoke clearly, methodically. He described meeting Amanda, falling in love, the gradual erosion of his judgment. He admitted his mistakes, didn't minimize his role. But he also described the threats, the manipulation, the fear. She told me I could choose between my freedom and my father's life, Trevor said. She showed me text messages, searches on my computer, evidence of my involvement. She said if I didn't help her, she'd make sure I went to prison for attempting to murder my dad. She'd convinced me that I was already a criminal, that I'd already crossed a line I couldn't come back from. So what difference did it make if I went further? How did you feel when you learned your father's brake lines had been cut? The prosecutor asked. Trevor's voice broke, terrified, sick. I realized Amanda wasn't just talking about accidents. She was actually trying to kill him, and I'd helped her. I'd given her the information she needed. I'd kept him distracted. I felt like a monster. What changed? My father. Trevor looked at me in the gallery. He could have called the police immediately. He could have had me arrested along with Amanda, but instead, he talked to me. He asked me to tell him the truth. And when I did, when I confessed everything, he didn't reject me. He helped me. He gave me a chance to make things right. My father saved my life twice. Once by staying alive despite Amanda's attempts, and once by refusing to give up on me, even when I'd given up on myself. The courtroom was silent. Even the judge had tears in her eyes. Trevor continued. Amanda stole 2 years of my life. She stole my money, my mother's jewelry, my dignity. She almost turned me into a murderer. But she didn't win. She couldn't destroy what really mattered. She couldn't take the love between my father and me. She couldn't break the foundation my parents built. My mother taught me about love and kindness. My father taught me about forgiveness and strength. Amanda tried to corrupt all of that, but she failed. Because family, real family, is stronger than any manipulation. He finished his testimony. The defense tried to cross-examine him, tried to paint him as an unreliable witness, a co-conspirator turning on his partner, but Trevor held firm. He answered every question honestly, admitted every mistake, never wavered. When he stepped down from the stand, I met him outside the courtroom. We didn't speak. I just hugged him, hard, and he held on to me like he used to when he was small. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. We waited in the courthouse cafeteria, drinking bad coffee, not talking. Harold sat with us, providing steady, quiet support. When the verdict came back, we filed back into the courtroom. Amanda stood as the jury foreman read the decision. Guilty on all counts. Conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, identity theft, charges related to the previous deaths in other states. Amanda's face remained blank. She showed no emotion, no remorse. Even when the judge read the sentence, 35 years without possibility of parole, Amanda simply nodded, as if confirming a dinner reservation. Federal charges were still pending for the murders in other states. She'd likely never see freedom again. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. I made a brief statement, thanked the police and prosecutors, expressed sympathy for the other families affected. Then Trevor and I went home. That evening, we drove to the cemetery where Carol was buried. We hadn't visited together since the trial started. We stood at her grave as the sun set, the granite headstone warm under our hands. We need to tell her, Trevor said quietly. So we did. We told Carol everything. About Amanda, about the manipulation, about Trevor's mistakes and his redemption, about the trial, the verdict, the justice that had been served. "I'm sorry, Mom," Trevor whispered. "I'm sorry I was weak. I'm sorry I sold your jewelry. I'm sorry I let someone make me forget everything you taught me. But I'm going to make you proud. I promise. I'm going to spend the rest of my life being the man you raised me to be." I felt Carol's presence there, in the quiet evening air. I knew she'd already forgiven Trevor. She'd forgiven him the moment he made his first mistake, because that's who Carol was. Forgiveness was her superpower. "She's proud of you," I told Trevor. "She always was. She always will be." We stayed until dark, then drove home together. The months after the trial were about healing and building something new. I legally updated my will again, properly this time, leaving everything to Trevor. He'd earned it. He'd proven himself. More importantly, I trusted him completely now. The crucible of betrayal had forged him into someone stronger, someone more aware, someone genuinely good. Trevor and Beth got engaged on a crisp October evening. Beth worked at the local library, loved mystery novels and old movies. She was kind, patient, and moved slowly through life in a way that felt safe to Trevor. They'd been dating for 6 months, taking their time, building a foundation of friendship before romance. Trevor insisted on premarital counseling. They met with Dr. Chen together, worked through Trevor's trauma, established healthy communication patterns, set boundaries. Beth was understanding about Trevor's past, but she was also clear-eyed about what she needed from a partner. Trust, honesty, transparency. Their engagement party was small, held in my backyard. Friends from the post office, Trevor's colleagues from the accounting firm where he'd recently returned to work, Beth's family. It felt genuine, warm, full of real love. I watched Trevor with Beth and saw something I'd never seen with Amanda. Ease, comfort. No performance, no trying too hard, no desperation. Just two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. The wedding was in early December, a simple ceremony in a small church Carol and I had attended. Beth wore a vintage dress her grandmother had worn. Trevor wore a suit we'd picked out together. No expensive venue, no elaborate production, just sincerity. Since Carol wasn't there to walk Trevor down the aisle, I did it. It wasn't traditional, but nothing about our journey had been traditional. I walked my son to his bride, placed his hand in hers and whispered, "Your mother would be so proud." At the reception, held in the church hall with homemade food and a local DJ, I gave a toast. I kept it simple. I've learned something these past months. Family is resilient. Love is stronger than manipulation. And forgiveness, real forgiveness, isn't about forgetting. It's about understanding, learning, and choosing to move forward together. Trevor made mistakes, but he had the courage to admit them, to make amends, to grow. That takes more strength than never making mistakes in the first place. I'm proud of my son. I'm grateful for Beth, who sees him clearly and loves him anyway. And I'm thankful for second chances. For all of us. The room applauded. Trevor hugged me hard. Beth kissed my cheek. "Thank you for raising him right," she whispered. "Thank you for not giving up on him." Trevor and Beth moved into a small apartment across town. Trevor insisted on paying their own way, building their life independently. I respected that. He was establishing himself as his own man, separate from me, capable and strong. But we still worked together 3 days a week in the handyman business. It had grown. We had regular clients now, elderly folks who trusted us, who valued quality work and honest pricing. It wasn't making us rich, but it was satisfying. We were helping people, building things, fixing what was broken. I started dating Helen, a widow from church who'd known Carol. We took things slowly, coffee dates, museum visits, long walks. She didn't replace Carol. No one ever could. But she brought light back into my life. Companionship. Laughter. One evening in late spring, Trevor and I were sitting on my porch. The same porch where this whole nightmare had begun. We'd just finished repairing a neighbor's deck. Were tired and satisfied, drinking iced tea as the sun set. Trevor was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. How did you stay so calm through all of it? The sabotage, the trial, everything. How did you know what to do? I would have panicked, made mistakes, but you just stayed steady. How? I thought about it. About the bracelet in Dale's shop. About the recordings. About the moment I decided to investigate rather than immediately call the police. Son, I learned something through all this, I said slowly. When someone betrays you, especially someone you love, your first instinct is either rage or retreat. You want to lash out or run away. But neither of those heals anything. What saved us wasn't anger, and it wasn't running. It was patience and strategy. I waited. I watched. I gathered truth. Then I acted decisively. But here's the real lesson. I never stopped believing in you. Even when I saw evidence of your involvement, I looked deeper. I asked why, not just what. And that made all the difference. Trevor was listening intently. People can be manipulated, son. Good people can make terrible choices under pressure. But good people can also come back from those choices if someone believes in them enough to help them find their way. Your mother taught me that. She believed in people's ability to grow. So when life puts you in an impossible situation, remember this. Stay calm. Seek truth. Act with wisdom, not emotion. And never give up on the people you love. Justice matters, but so does mercy. I got both, and so did you. That's what makes us human. Trevor nodded slowly. I want to be like that. Like you and Mom. Strong but kind. Just but merciful. You already are, son. You already are. We sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell. Fireflies began to appear in the yard, little points of light dancing in the warm evening air. It was peaceful. Complete. A few weeks later, Beth told us she was pregnant. Trevor was going to be a father. I was going to be a grandfather. The joy was overwhelming. I started building a cradle in my workshop, using techniques Carol had taught me 40 years ago when we were young, and building furniture for Trevor's nursery. The wood was oak, solid and enduring. I carved small details into the headboard, flowers that Carol had loved, patterns that meant family. Trevor came to help one Saturday afternoon. I showed him how to sand the wood smooth, how to fit the joints precisely, how to apply finish so the grain showed through beautifully. This is for your child, I told him. And someday, maybe their child. We're building something that lasts, Trevor. Something good. That's what family does. We build. We create. We pass on what matters. Trevor ran his hand over the smooth wood. I want to tell my kid about all of this someday. About the mistakes I made. About how you saved me. About how family forgives and fights for each other. You will. When they're old enough to understand, you'll teach them about love and second chances, about wisdom and mercy. And they'll grow up knowing that their father is a good man who learned from his mistakes and became better because of them. We worked together as the afternoon light slanted through the workshop windows. Father and son, building something beautiful for the future, building something that would last. The cradle was finished 3 weeks before Beth gave birth. A healthy baby girl, 8 pounds 2 ounces, with Trevor's eyes and Beth's smile. They named her Carol, after the grandmother she'd never meet, but whose love had shaped everything she'd inherit. I held little Carol in my arms at the hospital, this tiny, perfect human who represented everything good that had survived. Amanda had tried to destroy our family. She'd nearly succeeded. But here was proof that love was stronger than evil, that forgiveness could heal what seemed broken beyond repair. Trevor stood beside me, his hand on my shoulder. Thank you, Dad. For everything. For not giving up on me. For showing me what real strength looks like. You don't need to thank me, son. You're my boy. I'll never give up on you. That's not what fathers do. And I meant it. Through everything, through the betrayal and pain, through the fear and uncertainty, the one constant had been this. Family. Real family. The kind that doesn't crumble under pressure, that doesn't abandon you when you make mistakes, that fights for you even when you don't deserve it. That's the lesson I'd learned through it all. That wisdom is knowing when to be patient and when to act. That love means holding people accountable while still believing in their capacity to change. That forgiveness isn't weakness but the hardest kind of strength. Amanda was in prison, would likely die there. Marcus was locked away. The other victims' families had gotten justice. Trevor had rebuilt his life into something meaningful. I had my son back, had a daughter-in-law I respected, had a granddaughter to love. Justice had been served. But more than that, mercy had triumphed, and that made all the difference. As I rocked baby Carol in the hospital room, watching Trevor and Beth smile at each other with tired joy, I felt Carol's presence again. My Carol, watching over us, proud of what we'd built from the ashes of betrayal. We'd survived. More than that, we'd grown, and we'd passed on something worth having. Love, forgiveness, resilience, the understanding that family is both the hardest and most rewarding thing we'll ever build. That's worth fighting for. Always. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to forgive someone who hurt you deeply? Someone who betrayed your trust? It's one of the hardest things we'll ever do. But I've learned that forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of bitterness. It's about choosing to believe in redemption, in second chances, in the human capacity for growth and change. Think about the people in your life, the ones who've hurt you, the ones you've hurt. Is there healing that needs to happen? Is there grace that needs to be extended? We don't get infinite time on this earth. Don't waste it holding grudges against people who could be family again if you just had the courage to forgive. If this story moved you, if it made you think about your own relationships and choices, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who might need to hear about forgiveness and second chances. Leave a comment below telling me about a time you forgave someone or were forgiven. Your story matters. Your journey matters. Thank you for listening to mine. Thank you for taking this journey with me. I hope it brought you some comfort, some wisdom, maybe some hope. May you find the courage to forgive and the strength to rebuild what's been broken. May you never give up on the people you love, even when they make terrible mistakes. And may you always remember that family, real family, is worth fighting for. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And remember, wisdom and mercy can coexist. They must coexist. That's what makes us human.